And all of the infrastructure is in place now to do that. You can very quickly source product if you have good relationships. So if you're already in the market and you have good relationships with manufacturers, you can source product very easily in a low-cost way, so you can get up and running with relatively little capital. And that's why we're excited about the opportunity and where we see disruption. The key, though, is being able to sustain that, because the barriers to entry have obviously come down, and that makes it easy for sort of anybody to jump in and get early traction. And so what we look for when we look for a company that we think can really be disruptive over the long term is somebody that just understands their market so well and has all of those the relationships and the understanding of the target market and consumer in a way that we don't see anybody else that has the same capability. And that's that's a little bit of the mystery and the sort of the art and science of I guess venture investing. But all the pieces are in place now that will allow we believe some big brands to be built.
Okay, great. So Ajay, you guys manage billions of dollars, and you have hundreds of companies across the Bain Capital family. What are the trends you're seeing, specific to this audience, to eTail, across that portfolio, and what are the opportunities that those trends present?
Definitely. I think we think one of the biggest trends that represents the golden opportunity for everyone in this room is the fact that I think the next 5 years of e-commerce is going to be about technology and big data. In fact, last week I heard this Gartner Group quote, I heard it from the CIO no less, that said by the year 2017, a CMO is going to spend more on technology than a CIO, which I think is illustrative of this point that for the first time in history, given that so much of the business is now being conducted over the web, on mobile devices, on tablets, in physical locations, online, offline, wherever it may occur, the sheer amount of data that's available to you as marketeers around your customers, around your prospects, around people in the buying funnel, in the purchase funnel, and it's going to take sophisticated technology to take advantage of that data. And the .coms and the multi-channel retailers who were able to harness that data with sophisticated technology and analytics, I think are going to have a massive competitive advantage. And so I think you're going to see this shift over the next 5 years where a lot of the spending in the marketing department, which has historically gone towards media and media spend, is now going to be shifted towards building real infrastructure and platforms and core capability to power this next wave. So we think that's an exciting trend. We see it in our big companies that we own on the private equity side, like Toys R Us and Gymboree and Michaels. We see it with the kind of companies that we're funding on the e-commerce enablement side, where the founders of these companies are coming from places like Google and Facebook and Apple and bringing world-class technology to bring to bear on this set of problems and challenges.
Interesting. All the vendors in the audience love those words, right? They're growing budgets. So, from Madrona's perspective, I'd be interested both in what you're seeing, the trends you like, and then also as an ex-Amazon guy, how do we compete, right? How can we compete with Amazon?
Well, I'd say just to build on what Ajay was talking about, trend-wise, mobile, I think, particularly in the last quarter, but I think in the next 5 years, is it's been startling how quickly traffic has grown and conversion on mobile. And a lot of that's still driven by email, and people get their email, they go to the website. But very quickly, everybody's going to have first-class, if not built first for mobile, certainly a first-class mobile and tablet experience. And I think ultimately that's going to be more, 5 years from now, that more people are going to be interacting with your website with those types of devices that are interacting with it with their PCs today. So I think that's a big one. Another trend that I wouldn't say is a trend yet, but somewhere that I'm particularly interested in, is bringing technology that's been applied in the online world to the offline world. You think about the sophistication of personalized merchandising and understanding who your customer is and targeting them, and all the great things that we want to do even more of online. it's like the Stone Ages offline, and how do you bring technology to the offline world? And so I wouldn't say that, that's one where I'm really excited to kind of see the new companies that are developing. Now, as it relates to Amazon, I mean, I think, Amazon fundamentally hasn't solved the problem that I'm most interested in solving on the web, which is the problem of discovery of products, right? So pretty much everybody who shops on Amazon either knows what they want or, kind of sees what somebody else bought that was like them. And discovery is a problem that's fundamentally unsolved. And they're not really well positioned to solve because they don't have the social graph data. They don't have the interest sort of graph data. They do have a lot of great data, but there's a lot of really interesting new companies who are taking differentiated approaches to building that kind of data set to help people find products that they didn't think they wanted or needed or wanted to look for. And I think, as it relates to the web, that's like probably the most interesting kind of unsolved problem.
Interesting. So Roger, big data, the problem of discovery, any other trends that you're seeing that are interesting and great investment opportunities?
It's a good open-ended question. I think there's a number of opportunities out there. Maybe I will build on Ajay's point around the big data space that we think is particularly interesting. We spend a lot of time talking to e-commerce companies and retailers and trying to figure out, how much they really have their arms around the things that are going on their site. What you find is that they are flying blind oftentimes. They don't have a sense for their cost of acquisition. They don't have a sense for kind of their best channels to acquire customers. They can't identify who their most profitable customers are, kind of what advertising campaign led them to those customers, what media buy, what creative. They don't really know if they try and figure out the virality of those customers, how viral they are, what the hooks are on the site that make them more viral. And that's just in their web property. When you try and ask those same questions around their social platforms, or on their mobile platforms, they don't really have any of that data in place. And yet, that's the type of data that drives all their product decisions, all their marketing investments, and they don't really have it. And so we think that's a really big and really interesting opportunity. We actually recently invested in a company called Contagion, which solves a lot of those problems for e-tailers. And they've seen a lot of traction helping them address those questions around their web property, around their social platforms and their mobile platforms. So again, we continue to think that's a really exciting area. Above and beyond that, we're seeing a lot of incremental investment in social. Just one area we haven't talked about much. And so we're seeing a lot of companies try and figure out their strategy on Facebook, their strategy on Google, their strategy on new discovery platforms like Pinterest, and trying to figure out exactly which is the right model for them to promote their products, promote their services. I'd say it's still early there. The traction is a little bit less than, from what I've seen, than in the mobile space. In mobile, you're seeing a lot of interesting adoption. So Groupon actually just announced that a quarter of their Groupons sold in December were through mobile channels. eBay frequently publishes the amount of traction they're getting through mobile. I can't remember the numbers off the top of my head, but the growth is pretty dramatic. Social, it feels, is a little bit earlier. Facebook's trying to figure out the right strategy to kind of make kind of discovery and